Good morning, solar YouTubers, and there's the start of the show. You giving kisses this morning? Giving kisses? Yeah, you guys got kisses. She's kissing on you. All right, so I ran my fan in the fridge all night. I'm sitting down at 26.4 and nothing's coming out. There is no wattage coming in yet. Looks like it'll be another sunny day today. Yeah, I gotta go to work and get a couple of stops done today. Didn't do them yesterday because I was just tired. So I gotta go work a little bit today. No big deal. Unless I get to sleep in a little bit, that's all I care about. All right, so this is Saturday, September 27th of 2025. So I hope you guys stay with me on this one. So when I have my other charge controller up and running, let me get my toolbox off of that one. Let's go back out in the truck there. Okay, so I had that charge controller here, okay? And it's a 100 volt max with 20 amps out, okay? So when I have that running off my 400 watts, charging my batteries down there, I was only getting 100 and 200 watts, 250. Every once in a while I might hit 300 coming in. And it threw me off for a long time. I ran up on the roof. I made sure all my connections were correct. Make sure they were, snug together. I had a couple that, wasn't, MC4s wasn't quite, clicked together. It still didn't make any difference. And so throughout the day, my batteries, even on a nice sunny day like today looks beautiful. It's nice and sunny again today. But even on a nice sunny day, that charge controller, one behind me, it was a good charge controller, don't get me wrong, but it would never really charge the batteries and keep the fridge running at the same time. And I just could never figure it out. And then yesterday, this charged the batteries, kept the batteries charged all day long, and running the fridge. And I could not figure it out. And then it just dawned on me, and like a brick hit me. No YouTube channel has ever talked about this, okay? Here we go. I've been saying since I started these videos with, the Vevor, that your charge controller is the bottleneck of your system, okay? So, when these content creators, YouTube solar people, when you figure out your battery capacity, okay, then you need to figure out, you need to charge these batteries in 3 hours or 2 hours, whatever your your lowest sun hours are during the day in your area. Mine's about 3, okay? So you take your total wattage of your panel, mine's 2,500 watts, I think, divided by 3, and that would give you your total wattage that you need to charge that battery in 3 hours, okay? So roughly, I need 400, I think. Let me, my computer's not up and running. I don't quite remember offhand. I needed something like 400 something for, she's all lovey-dovey because I'm talking to somebody. Like 400 an hour, 450 or something an hour to charge these batteries up all the way, okay? That's cool. But what I was doing is I was coming in the bottleneck. That was bottlenecking me. So this here, the max output is 288 watts. How do I get that? You take the charging voltage, 14.4, and you times it by the amps. That's only a 20 amp ordeal. So that can only put out 288 amps. So therefore, I wasn't really charging these batteries. I mean, I had the charge. I had the solar panels. It was not charging these batteries. It would run the fridge, and that's about it. And then when the fridge was off, it was only putting 288 watts in here. Okay, so that's not charging these batteries in a day. and I was having that issue. And then yesterday I was like, why did that charge that? What's the difference? What's the difference is that charge controller is an 80 amp charge controller. Okay? So this here can take in a whole lot more than what that can. So this one, I was maxed out 100 volts. That's fine, you know. And then the input on that one is the same input on this, but it's the output. That was 20 amps. This is 80 amps. So let me do the math real quick. Sorry about that, guys. My calculator is not handy. So let's do a calculator here. So we have the 14.4 volts. That's what the charge controller is charging at. You want to times that by 80, and that equals, so literally that charge controller, yeah, that MPPT is charging at 1152. You know, you're like, oh, that doesn't make no sense because you only got 400 volts coming in. Well, let's just do that then. So it's not charging at 1500. You're correct on that one. So so we got 400. How are we going to do this? How are we going to figure it out? So I do know I need at 400 divided by, okay, yeah, 14.4 equals, I need about a 30 amp charge controller. Okay, so if we figure out, so mine was 20. So if we take the 14.4, we times that by 30, and so we're getting 432 watts. So roughly, to be more exact, let me get the 14.4 times 28. There we go. So roughly, I am using my whole array on this battery, and that 400 amps, 400 watts. This is more than enough to charge my batteries and run my fridge. 400. So, real quick math here again. Everything's here. It's not too bad. Simple. Okay. So you take your battery voltage. Mine's 12.8. Okay. So and then we times the amp hours. That equals 1,280. You want to times that by 2 because I got 2 of them. So I got 2560. Okay. So if I want to charge that in 3 hours, 3 sun hours, because I live here in Indiana, so we got 3 or 4 sun hours. I'll just go with 3 hours. Okay. I need to pour in 853 watts an hour. Okay. But what we're not considering is when we take out, I forgot what that number was. So we take in the 2560, right? That's the total capacity. But we're not using the total capacity, okay? We're using some of it. We're using half of it, you want to say, or whatever. So to bring the battery back up to full, we're not going from 0 to 2560. Okay, so we use maybe 1,000 watts out of this. Okay, so we're only bringing up 1,000 watts. So that's the issue. That's the math and the stuff that no one tells you. No one YouTube tells you this. No solar expert, I'm giving the air quotes, will tell you this. They tell you, get your total battery. That's 2560. And then you need to figure out, divide that by your total sun hours. So you have, every region of the world has so many sun hours. So that means the peak time that the sun is up over your panels, and that everything's peak, okay? true, your panels start producing something in the morning and throughout the all day until the end. But your peak hours is when the sun is pretty much overhead, or in the south, it's it's at the peak angle for your panel. And during that peak, that's when you get your most charging, the most concentrated charging. So we go by the peak hours, and then three. But we're not now. If you're running your battery all the way down, then charging all back way up, then yeah, then that scenario falls. But for most people, we're not running our batteries down to zero. Well, I'm not, so I'm running it down to 60%, and then it's charging back up. So I don't need 800 watts to bring in 853 watts or 453, whatever I need to bring in to charge my batteries, because I'm not going from zero. I'm going from 60. So that's what you got. Also, too, you got to take into consideration is if you are depleting your battery bank all the way down throughout the night, okay? Yes, then you need to bring in that much solar to charge it from zero up to 100 and running a load at the same time. Yes, you do. But I am not. So therefore, my 400 watts is more than enough to run my fridge. Now, it is true, I just do not have enough storage. But throughout the day, during the sun hours, I do have, if the sun is like it is today and like yesterday, I do have enough to power that fridge. Now, when it comes nighttime, I'm not having the sun, then it's coming on the battery, and then I don't have enough battery storage to run the fridge fully all night plus my fan. That's no. Can I run this all night? I think I can, but I'd have the charge controller. Well, I can, because I have, my fault. Before I got this, I was running it down. I was using 40 amp hours a night. I was getting this down to around 58 amp hours left in the battery. I was getting down to almost 50% of the battery. And then I had to wait until the sun starts charging up the batteries and run the fridge at the same time, and it was never doing it because the charge controller was the bottleneck. So it was only putting out 288 watts, only 20 amps. And so this converts a full, whatever I was bringing in yesterday. I was bringing in about 350. I think it hit 360 at one time. And I'm like, why is it bringing in that much? It didn't bring that much before. What's different? What's new? And it's because of charge controller. Because they can't accept it all. So I won't get the 400. I know that because my panels are not quite angled right. They're angled too steep for right now. I need about 35 degree. They're up there at 42, 40, 30. And I know that. And so, but I'm not going up there and change the angle and about a month later change it back. I'm just not doing that. I'm leaving it where it's at. And then when it gets, before the snow and stuff gets in, I go up there and set that panel for the final angle and just leave it be. So that's in that. But so you might have 400 watts on the roof, right? But your charge controller, mine was only using 200 of it. I got 250 a couple times. That's because the charge controller is at its max is 288. So it was maxed out. Okay, so that's the whole story. Is your charge controller is your bottleneck. It's the bottleneck of your whole system. I don't have that bottleneck right now. I can put up there 3,000 watts, I believe it was, and it's fine. It's, it takes in 1,000 watt. It takes in 500 volts from your panel, and then converts it to 14.48, whatever it is, 6, whatever, 14 something. It can charge it out at 80 amps. Okay, so No, we're not creating. We're not creating more electricity than what we're putting in. Um, so it's converting. That's what science says. I am the free energy guy. I have literally little small devices that, well, let's just say that free energy is real. It's not fake. You can make these little homemade machines that can run off of, I can power a 120-volt light bulb off a AAA battery. Okay? Free energy is there. Now, get it into the larger scales like a house and stuff, and I do believe that science is true on that, because you have your conversion losses get so much greater, and you can't really overcome it. But I can show you these small little devices on one video if you guys are interested in it. I can take a double A, triple A battery that is almost dead, be 0.8, 1 volt, half a vote, whatever, and I can run a 120-volt LED light. It's by using the back meth off the transformer. So I got this whole, I got everything here. But if you guys are interested, now let me know. Can we power our own house? I think we can, but yeah, big government won't let you. So I'm not saying I'm creating free energy here. So I'm taking I'm taking my 100 votes. I actually I bring in about 90 votes, and we're dropping it down to 14.4. So in the transformer world, if you're incoming, if you're stepping down your incoming voltage, you're increasing the amps. If you're increasing the voltage coming into the transformer, then you're decreasing the amps. That's what science says. So here, what we're doing is we're decreasing the volts, so therefore we have room to increase the amps. So at the max that I'm bringing in, I need 30 amps roughly to charge my batteries full and get it where it needs to be. And I can only, so right now, like I said, I was only bringing in 20. So that's why I was confused yesterday. Why is my battery staying charged? Why my battery's being charged to begin with, the full charge, and now I'm running my fridge at the same time. My fridge is actually running off the solar because I'm producing a whole lot of solar, and I'm like, nothing made sense. It's the same wattage. And then it dawned on me last night when I'm sleeping, it's the charge controller was my bottleneck. And I've been saying this ever since I started this video, this new series. Your charge controller is a bottleneck. So I'm watching these people on making campers and homemade grid systems, and they got 30 or 4 Victron charge controllers, and all this. I just don't understand why we're still using charge controllers. It makes no sense. That is your bottleneck. If you buy a Victron charge controller for $351, that's a 150 slash 60 is what I actually need to bring in 800 watts. To bring in 800 watts of solar, I need a $351 charge controller to bring in 850 watts. And at that point, that charge controller is still bottlenecked. I can't increase it no more because I need to bring 800 watts in here. 800 watts. I need. That's quite. So you take your 14.4. I believe that's what the charging is. Hold on. We do that wrong. We need 800. Divided by 14.4. And so I need 55 and a half watts to bring in. 55 amps from the charge controller. And the Victron there is what's a 150 slash 60 is what you need. That's $351, $358, depends where you go, just for that. And even at that, it's maxed. So if I want to bring in more solar, the best that Victron can do on charge controllers that I've seen, you guys can quote me wrong, is a 250/100. Okay, and so you can bring in a 250 volts, and you can only put out 100. But on that, how many watts is that? How many watts is that? Let's do another some more math here. That's what, 250 times 100. Yeah, that's probably simple. 25,000 watts. That's not 25,000 watts on the roof. I can't bring in 25,000 watts. What wattage is that? 250 volt. And that's the watts. That's what the charge controller can put out. That's what that doesn't make sense though. I'm doing something wrong here. Because my charge controller is 14.4 times 20. That's 288. That's right, you know. So 250 volts. Mine are 22.7 equals. I can bring 11 panels, so I can bring in 1100 watts. So the charge controller is pretty much, because if you times that by 100, you get roughly 1100 watts. So that Victron 250 slash 100 can only bring in 1100 watts, and then you're maxed at $351. True, get me wrong, Victron's a good product. I mean, they got a lot of good communication. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's about charge controllers, but to have a big scale system, if you go into a residential or commercial that has a scaled system to run the whole building, you don't have to sell it back to the grid, but just run the whole building. They don't have charge controllers. They do not have charge controllers. They have an all-in-one. They have an EG4 5000 XP or something. They have something big to do this. And from this point, I'm telling you guys, you need to invest in one of these all-in-ones. And from there, you can build your system up and not be bottlenecked by that. I got 3,000 watts I can bring in. That's a lot of wattage. You know, that's 3 kilowatts I can bring in on that one unit. And 3 kilowatts for me would be, oh my God, be perfect. 3 kilowatts on the roof, 3 kilowatts. I mean, I probably need about 10 kilowatts in battery storage to be, 3-day autonomous. Dude, I got made. But, that's money I don't have, of course. So maybe one day in a few years, because to bring in the 3 kilowatts of solar panels, it's pretty cheap. I mean, you're looking at maybe $2,000, $2,500, depends what you buy. And they're not bad at all. Like maybe 5,000 to be really max because of the panels and the rack and all that stuff, wiring and all that. You get down here. I don't believe in microconverters. I think they're a bunch of waste of time. I think they're a scam in itself. Microconverters are a big scam. So what you need to do is bring on all the DC, bring it into your charge controller, let your charge controller handle it, convert that DC to AC. I just don't like them. I think they're really a scam. True, I do understand that the farther you travel in DC, you do have, you do lose energy, you do lose voltage traveling long distance. I do understand you have it's called line loss. I do understand that. But the line loss that you're going to have compared to what you're making is not that important. You're not going to miss the 5% of the wattage coming in. You're not going to do that. And if you do, if you worry about that, just oversize your panel, your solar input to compensate that if you want to. But line loss, I'm traveling, I got a 50-foot cord, and I'm probably using 40 foot from the panels, how I have it wired down across the roof down in here, about 40 foot I'm using. And so I am not worried about 10 votes lost, 20 votes lost. That's not going to hurt me one bit. Um, so I'll get off of here. It's long enough, but it's all about it's all about your charge controller. That's where you start your system from. You start your system from your charge controller. You have to bring in the solar and convert that solar to run your batteries, to charge up your batteries, and or run the system. So your charge controller is the number one piece you got to bring in, and we are so stuck on bringing in these charge controllers. It's hilarious. It's just mind blowing how no one's really getting this. No one's really understanding the charge controller and how important how it's a bottleneck. And so, they're building these nice Victron builds, and you got 4 charge controllers, 2 charge controllers, and for that money, they can buy an all-in-one, so they don't have to worry about you can still bring in a bus system, you can still bring in that Lynx bus system and a monitoring system and a shunt, and all that. I understand, but the charge controller itself, you don't need. And you slip that in there. Not this particular unit, but a unit that you like, and it brings in your solar. It charges your batteries. Your batteries can run, and it has the built-in inverter. So the inverter's coming out into a circuit breaker system, and from there you can run your stuff. And then if you have DC you need to run, right, and you just hook it up. What I'm going to do today, hook up to your DC, and or you can bring a AC to DC and do it that way. But that's why I'm doing this everyday vlog on this. So most of you won't reach this far, so that's cool. But I will get out of here, and the start of the show says meow meow.